Okay, in this video we're going to be discussing section 1.1, and if you'd like to follow along, it's on page 4 in your book. So let's go ahead and get started. Write the names of the following soft drinks and order them starting with with your favorites. So basically what we're doing is we are ranking our soft drinks. All right, so let's say if I was to rank them, I would say for me, this is Coach Ford's opinion here, I would put Coke as my first choice. My second choice would be Mountain Dew, and then my third choice would be Dr. Pepper. So let me label this and let's just say this is mine. Okay. Well, let's say if I had a friend and his name was Tim, and and I asked Tim to do the same thing, and he said, you know what, I think Mountain Dew would be my choice. I don't know why I put three there. Let me do this again. One would be Mountain Dew. Number two, let's say Dr. Pepper, and then lastly, three, Coke. So this is Tim's choice. Obviously, based upon what you can see, we have a difference of opinion. Well, what we're going to do is we are going to create a preference schedule. And a preference schedule, if you just want to see in your book, it's something that looks like, okay, we got arrows and we got, in this case, A, B, C, or D. Just, it kind of looks weird at this point in time since we're introducing it. So let's go back to our Coke, Mountain Dew, Dr. Pepper question, and let's put this in a preference schedule. Now, the first thing, if you notice, let me go to the slide here. You see an arrow. Okay, so obviously we're going to have to draw an arrow. All right, so I'm going to draw an arrow like so. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my information, which is right here, and I am going to put that information on this arrow. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to put my first choice at the top of the arrow. So this will be Coke, this would be Mountain Dew, and this would be Dr. Pepper. Now notice that I'm not having to put 1, 2, and 3 because of the fact of the way I'm writing them on the arrow. So obviously my first place choice will always be at the top of my arrow. And you guys get the idea. This would be my second place choice. And then lastly, in this case, this will be Dr. Pepper, my last place choice. You could say it's third place, yes, but in reality, it's my last place choice. Now, in this case, we're only dealing with three soft drinks here. We can actually go as many as you want. Preferably, it needs to be something greater than two soft drinks. So we just decided that three would keep it easy. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my label up at the bottom and say this is Jeff's choice. All right, there we go. And I'm going to do the same thing for Tim. And so there you go. There's Tim's preference schedule right there. Okay. Now, let's say if we had another friend, and we'll just call him John. Okay. And John decided to make it. Let me make some room here. So let's say if John's preference schedule, and I'm not even going to write first, second, third place. I'm just going to go ahead and just draw the preference schedule. Let's say, for example, John had his choices, and they look exactly like Tim's. That's Dr. Pepper, and this right here, that looks like there it is. If I kept that looking like a pea, it'd drive me crazy. All right, and so let's say Tim's and John's preference schedule was exactly the same. Well, when you are creating preference schedules, there's no sense in rewriting the same preference schedule. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. It's more information that needs to be there, okay, or that doesn't need to be there. So what we're going to do is we are going to erase John's preference schedule, or actually, let me do it this way, just so you can visually see it better. I'm going to put John over here, okay, and then I'm going to take his preference schedule and just get rid of it. Now I'm going to try to do this. There we go. And so by putting his name up underneath Tim's, we can make an observation that says that this preference schedule here, this one right here, is shared by both Tim and John. So they both have the same idea of what they want when it comes to soft drinks. Pretty simple. All right, let's go to this slide again. Now notice what we have here is we actually have 4 preference schedules. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and you can have as many preference schedules as you want. I just chose 4 because that's what the book wanted. Okay, now the one thing I want to bring to your attention is this number right here, the 8, the 5, the 6, and the 7. Okay, 8, 5, 6, and 7. Those numbers are actually important because what they do is they tell us how many people actually agree with that particular preference schedule. So going back to our other slide here, you have Tim and John. Okay, these two agree with this preference schedule. Well, in this case, rather than actually having Tim, John, Jeff, whatever, we just have a number. Okay, so just paying attention to this preference schedule right here on the left, it says that 8 people agree that A should be in first place. Okay, 8 people agree that B should be in second place, C in third place, and lastly D in last place. All right, remember, first place is always going to be on top, and then your last place will always be on bottom. Pretty simple. Okay, all right, pretty easy, pretty simple. Okay, now let's say if I was to bring in the other preference schedules and I was to say, okay, based upon this information here, who has the most first place votes? Well, if you're talking about first place, then you need to be talking about first place for every single arrow. Okay, so when we do that, we just tally up our answers. So let's see, A has 8 first place votes, B has 5 first place votes, C has 6, and then D has 7. All right, that's pretty simple. Well, let's change it up a little bit just because we can and we have time to do so. All right, so let me change this, and let me change this last preference schedule. Rather than D being on first, we're going to put A on first. And then we're going to change this to where D is on second, or last, I'm sorry. Now, if the same question was, how many first place votes does each person have? Then once again, we pay attention to all of our first place. So A is first place here, but notice that A is also first place here. So that would be 8 people agree that A is in first place here, 7 people agree that A is in first place here, for a total of 15 first place votes. How many first place votes does B have? 5. How many first place votes does C have? Would be 6. Now lastly, let's look at D. Remember, I changed this last one for this particular question. How many first place votes does D have? Well, D's not in first place at all, so D gets a big fat 0. All right, so this is how you figure it out. And you could do this for every place whatsoever. So let me change this back to the original question here. And let's say the question was now, who had the most second place votes? Who's in second place the most? Oh, well, let's see, A, B, C, and D. Well, if we're paying attention to second place, that means we're paying attention to this position here. Well, let's see. A was never in second place, so A gets 0. Well, if you notice, D was never in second place either. C was in first place 5 times. 5 people agree C should be in second place. And then lastly, look at B. B was in second place actually 3 times. So let's see, 8, 6, and 7. I believe that is 21. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I think that's right. And like I said, you can do this for any place. All right, so that pretty much concludes what preference schedule is. I should have said this at the very beginning of the video, but if there's ever a time when you need to go back, or maybe I'm going too fast and you need to pause the video, feel free to do that, guys. You have the ability, hopefully on whatever device you're listening to. But other than that, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you very much.